And welcome to the early morning Sunday show. And today I'm going to show you some of the most interesting albums that I've picked up in a long time. One of them was sent to me, and these others, they're fascinating. Something different, but very, very good. I've really been enjoying them. So, hey, come along for the ride and let's take a look at these suckers. They're pretty cool. Cheers. And it's the frozen tundra. Yes, like almost everybody, except those on the West Coast, it is freaking cold. We're going down below zero. I'm doing this a little early this week, actually Saturday morning, because my wife's Christmas party's tonight, and she wants to stay overnight down by where it's at. We're actually going to the Christmas party is being held at the Denver Broncos Stadium. So she works the front desk at a law firm, and yes, they have suites or whatever. But we're going to the Broncos Stadium for a Christmas party, which sadly is tonight, and tonight is also the first playoffs for the Lions. So, I guess I'll be in the bar most of the time to watch the game because this is huge for the Lions. We'll see how it goes. So, yeah, it's going to be freaking cold for a while, but most of you are having the same deep freeze. Really, man, what a massive our gift from Canada. Again, they thought, well, if you want us to become the 51st state, let's just give you a little something special, and they sure did. It's a cold one, but that's all right. It's winter time. The opening, I was just one of these days. I was out in the countryside, trying, doing some photography, and came across Canadian geese, as you could see, and pronghorn antelope. That was just kind of fun to see. But those Canadian geese, oh my God, there are so many of them. This I found where Canadian geese decide to winter in the Denver area. So many Canadian geese, and you can't shoot them. Huh. Oh well. Well, let's begin though. Let's get going here with these albums. I came across the Honey Hole this week. A Honey Hole. And what I picked up, phenomenal. That's coming up. But I'm going to begin. So the first album, one of you, Fred Cooper suggested this album, said, you know what, I'm just not getting enough of this. This is so good. Have you ever heard of it? Yeah, I've heard of the group, but no idea about it. And the group is Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats. And they formed in 2009 out of Cambridge. So from the UK. And this is the album. I'm not even sure which number of album this is, but Nel Ora Blue. So Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats, they're known for their music to be heavy metal, stoner, doom, psych. It's kind of their wheelhouse. As one critic put it, it's like they're like the original Alice Cooper band jamming in a cell with Black Sabbath and the Stooges. Now, how's that for an interesting? I mean, there's a description of a group, but this one here, Nel or Blue, is their tribute to Italian cinema of the 70s. We really haven't had many people doing that, saying, what, we need to show more Italian cinema of the 70s. And they felt that this needed to be done. So this is what they came up with. And this is amazing. At first, it's one of those things where you kind of listen, you go, what am I listening to? But it just gets better and better as you go. And definitely that's what happened. Let's see if I have anything else in this one. Yep, there's some more different pictures. So this is maybe Prague, maybe Concept. I think it all falls into that. And because I've never had any Uncle Acid or know nothing about this, I decided to buy the expensive one that had the press kit. So this is a limited 200 from a group I don't know anything about. And yeah, let's just blow the money. But this press kit's pretty nice. So it came with, got a gun, because you need to have a gun. We have a poster. Yeah, look at that. Doesn't that look 70s? If you've ever seen 70s. There is, we have that. And I'll explain this. Here is the press kit that tells you what this is all about. And there is a big poster. Very nice. So let me tell you about this album. So again, it's a concept. It deals with a man that he's kind of runs the city like a mayor, something like that. The thing is that I got a nosebleed. And we're back with less blood coming out. Weird. I don't know. Wasn't much. Okay, so there's this guy in power, and he's very corrupt. Everyone, he's out there. People have to give him bribes. He knows the secrets of everybody, and just kind of runs the place. And people are just tired of this. They're just tired. They want to get rid of him. So it's about and so there's guys one of the, I think he's a businessman, but he has a brother that's kind of psychotic, and so they plot to get this guy to go out to a place where they can murder him. So it deals with some phone calls. There's a lot of phone calls in here, and he's at a bar, and he says, "Hey, we have some money or whatever," because this guy's big into extortion, and says, "Come to this phone booth and we'll tell you how to get the money." So he goes out to the phone booth, and as he's in there, the phone rings and he's talking, and the person on the other end, the lady, starts to recite the Bible. As she's reciting the Bible to him, the crazy brother comes up and slits the guy's throat and shoots him. And the evil man dies. And then as the crazy brother kind of walking down the street or whatever, a car pulls up and shoots him. So kind of retribution there. That's it in a nutshell. So, I just haven't ever had anything like this. It is so darn original. And these pieces. So the pieces of music in here, it's filled with kind of almost like a desert psych rock. It could be doomy. There's synth pieces, a lot of creepy cinematic type landscapes and spacey Prague. It's all in here, and it sounds fascinating. There's also vocal choruses. It's sung. There's the phone calling, everything's, all the talking's in Italian. So it's like an Italian opera. That's it. It's an Italian opera, quite honestly. But the singing, a lot of the singing is done in English. I have nothing else like this in my collection. This is so original, so different, and there's a lot of more inexpensive versions, and this was limited to 200. But there's just a lot of instrumental tracks on here with just heavy thumping drums, and lots of songs that I can't pronounce. This was fascinating. Really, really was fascinating. There's a lot more to it. You can see there's kind of the script of the whole thing, but. From a viewer like you suggested this, Fred Cooper. Nell or Blue, Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats. Interesting stuff.
polizia di strada è l'unica possibilità che abbiamo. Facciamogli il sorriso che viene.
The next album, this came to me from my friend Michael, and of course he's a big Lions fan too. And my blue, oh Michael, I always forget you. It's right here. I always forget the last numbers. Who has an album coming out this year, hopefully very soon. This is a wonderful album, and this is the name of it. It's in Cherokee. This is the Cherokee lettering. This album is all done in the Cherokee language, and it is incredible. And there is, we have here booklet that is upside down, but you know what? It's in. I don't read Cherokee, but it's interpretation, so they have what it is in English and what it is in Cherokee. And that is wonderful. Michael enclosed, or it might have come with this press thing. This was a limited edition of only 200, and I guess it's sold out. And more red. We got a lot of red going on, but you know, Cherokee Nation went through a lot of bad stuff and a lot of murder, and here are the people that are singing. This album of a name that I cannot pronounce, it would have went with World Tag. Everyone's scared to do. But this would have fit in perfect with it. And it's again sung in Cherokee. It goes anywhere from soft folk to hard heavy metal. There's rap to country to pop. All of that's in here, all sung in Cherokee and all sounding really good. I'll do multiple samples, smaller ones, so you can hear what they're kind of doing. And you know what this translates it into is, do you know what I'm saying? That's the translation of this album. And I mean, it is just, again, it's sung all in Cherokee because less than 1% of the Cherokee population can speak the language fluently. So they wanted to put this out, and with the whole language, I think that's marvelous. Just wonderful, because you know in the 1800s we pretty much slaughtered them. Trail of Tears, everything, just tragic. Settled them into Oklahoma, and even then wanted to, well, you know, we just kept trying to steal everything from them. Yay. So, but. We're not the only country to do that, but this is a diverse compilation, and there's just so many incredible sounds, so many just incredible tunes. It was so well done. It is an album that's filled with Easter eggs. There's just tons of Easter eggs in here for you to find. And as this thing says, is led by Cherokee citizens as part of a wide-ranging commitment to preserve and expand the Cherokee language. This album is produced by Cherokee filmmaker and creator Jeremy Charles and distributed by Horton Records, a nonprofit committed to supporting the tools for the Tulsa area musicians to broaden their reach. This project was funded in part through a commemoration fund dedicated to supporting bold initiative efforts to correct social, political, and economic injustices that impact Black, Indigenous, Latin, and people of color. And it was released in 2022. I was blown away by what I heard, and just the massive variety of music, all sung in Cherokee. Great stuff. Great stuff. Really good.
the streets, Adele doggy tongue. So goose I wanna you, dog go with plus. Squeeze the gutty hole, Adele. So goose you gave me, dog go with plus.
This album's fat. I saw this on a wall in a record store, and I go, "That's a cool car! Wow, I like that car." Now it wasn't cheap. I didn't know anything about it. The record store owner didn't know anything about it. I go, "Huh? All right, I'll buy it." Because that's how you just do things. It's not about knowing what the hell you're buying. You just say, "Oh, all right, I'll buy it." Well, I have learned a lot about this. So Red Sky, and that's it. Red Sky, self-titled Red Sky. It's from the Guinness record label, which is hard to look up, because when you do that, Guinness record, you get Guinness World Record. And so it took a little bit. But Guinness Records was an American record label formed in 1977, and they released over 100 albums, but the label was a major tax scam, along with Tiger Lily Records, and Delwood was part of this. The label Delwood on sending these things out. Marvin Popkin created Guinness Records as a tax shelter, and basically it was to people, you would invest in a master, and that was that really was overvalued. So people put in the money, it was overvalued, and then that way they could claim a loss. They could claim a loss, because when the record came out, they put out no publicity whatsoever, so you lost this money in it. And yeah, it basically, it was under promoted, and yeah, it became kind of a tax scam type of a thing, kind of like the movie The Producers, I guess. You collect this money from people, and then the album flops and they lose their money, and you're the one sitting with all of it. Now, the music they got was mostly recorded. The recordings came from just various studio vaults, and it was published as albums without the knowledge of these other people knowing that their music had been taken. And like this album, it's from a same group, whatever group, Red Sky, which is totally bogus, but there's rock, there's funk, soul, even a little folk and country in here. It's very 70s, but actually was a very enjoyable listen. It just took you into all kinds of different places. You can see it's just not much to this thing, because they weren't putting any money into this. It's just people invested, thinking, oh, it's going to be great. And then they just kind of screwed them over. Just tax scam, tax shelter. So, interesting story behind the music. Listen to some samples. It's not bad. It's very 70s, but interesting.
I like to say, it's good to have her.
Just finished The Wicked Ways of Malcolm McLaren. Fascinating read. The author had nothing really good about Malcolm McLaren. I was not a fan of Malcolm McLaren. I think this came out in the early 90s or the very late 80s, so it doesn't get through the ending part of Malcolm McLaren's life. But, Malcolm McLaren was, he basically was, I guess you could call him a destroyer. Because that's what he did. He destroyed things, and he would, but then he would take credit for everything, for something original. And so, from the Sex Pistols, this is the Bow Wow Wow, and all of it was really interesting. But as I'm reading there, they're talking in here about, it's not a bad read, by the way. Again, it's very, if there's anything good about McLaren, I'm not sure. But I mean, it really goes in depth. So very interesting read. But they talked about this album, his first solo album, Duck Rock. And I really don't know about this album. I've heard of it. I've never seen it. I've never seen anybody talk about it, anything like that. But they went into some depth into this, and it was pretty interesting. So, on Island, and I thought I needed to take a look at it. We have, it's not in the sleeve. Hold on here. Get that back in the sleeve. Have this. And that is the actual record sleeve there. So McLaren, a very young Malcolm McLaren. I might still be in the late 20s by the time this came out. So let's talk about this. This is in kind of an amazing, eclectic collection of world music with urban hip hop. Something that had not been done. It came out in '83. McLaren was in France. He was in trouble. Just because he had been scamming people, especially the Sex Pistols. He was being sued by everybody, so he just went to France to get away from it. McLaren was one that you create trouble, and then you just get the hell out of there. And he was there. And in France, he became friends with Serge Gainsbourg. And Serge Gainsbourg introduced him to someone who was doing all this music from Africa, especially Burundi beat, the Burundi beat. And McLaren was fascinated by this, and he was thinking about this and go, would this make something, an album? Well, at that time, Adam Ant had been talking to him and saying, you know what, I'll give you this money. McLaren didn't want to manage because there was just too much. Managing meant you had to work. More than you want to do. But McLaren says, I'll give you advice. And so for like £1,000 or Adam Ant paid McLaren. And so McLaren took Adam Ant's rhythm section and began doing Burundi beat, and they had no clue. But McLaren made them practice and practice and practice, and they began getting better and better and better at this thing. But as McLaren would always do, he began to pit band members against each other, and he took the rhythm section, pitted them against Adam Ant, to the point where eventually he told the rhythm section, you guys should be doing your own album and shouldn't be with him, and they agreed. And so then they went in and he formed Bow Wow Wow, which is a whole separate story, well documented in here. But McLaren at that time with this Burundi beat, he came up with this idea, I want to do an album of world folk dances. He goes, people want to do folk dances, and that's what I want to do. So after learning about this Afro beat, he decided, he finally got Loretta convinced that this would be a great idea. And his whole thing, I mean, on here, he does square dancing. He calls out a square dance. Talk about weird. It is. But this is really pretty good album. He goes all over the world recording. Not all, but I mean, a lot of it was spent in New York City. And in New York City, has so many different cultures, and when he's in New York City, he records Peruvian pipers. He records Dominican dancers, Colombian marching band, calypso. You hear that in there. He goes to Africa, down to South Africa, couple years before Paul Simon even did it, and is recording these different artists. Now, of course, since it's McLaren, do these artists get credit? No. Nothing. Nada. Nunca. Nothing. He just screws them over because McLaren is very, very good at this. It took 2 years to make this album, 2 years, and he had hundreds of hours of this tape he kept getting, but he didn't know what to do with it. McLaren is the guy, here's the idea, figure it out. If someone else figure it out. Well, they brought in Trevor Horn to try to figure this out. And they also had two MCs out of New York, the Supreme MC team, they're called, or Supreme Team MC, which are on here, and they have these two DJs, these two rappers going through. So you do get this rap, but you get this world music that sounds, it's fascinating, except for one of the songs. It's really kind of, it's called Duck for the Oyster, which is a hoedown. It is just a pure hoedown, but it's the putting world music in with their stuff. McLaren raps in this. McLaren has no idea of rhythm in that, so Trevor Horn would be beating on his chest. He would go up to McLaren's chest to give him a beat to get him to do it right, because he was just a disaster. And McLaren, he didn't want to deal with any of this stuff. Just everyone else figure it out. I got other things to do. That's just, he zero ever didn't have interest. Well, Trevor Horn figured this out. This was a fascinating album. I really liked it. I was shocked. I didn't know what to expect. And I just thought, after reading the book, I'm just going to get it. And I did. McLaren at this time said tape's going to take over vinyl, and everyone should be pirating. Everyone should be doing that. Of course, records like, what are you doing, man? And I mean, that's just Malcolm McLaren. What a dick. But I mean, he thought of things. So, yeah, Duck Rock, and has Buffalo Gals and Double Dutch, and very good, very good. Then I have Los Reyes. This one is not as fascinating, okay? But Los Reyes 73 is the name of the group. It's an Afro-Cuban funk band that has, there's little tinges of psych in here. You can hear that. And they're out of Cuba. And they formed in 1962. And this was their first album that came out in 1975. And they only did 2 albums, again, in Cuba. And so Mr. Bongo's been doing it, and this was done for Vinyl Me Please. And it's filled with Afro-Cuban jazz melodies, pop-type grooves. That's, again, there's some psych guitar happening in here. There's certain songs that you feel that. Ye Llego la Primavera is one, not yay. Si Llego la Primavera is one of the songs, and that could be in a blaxploitation film. It has that kind of vibe to it, but it's just some really nice, hard-charging Latin music that came out of Cuba, and it was fun listen. You know, I love the Latino type sound, especially out of the Caribbean, and very cool, very cool.
Ya que los malos momentos no los veía. Pasan con fuerza los años, el hombre renace. Y siempre van a decirme la misma frase. Amigo, te quiero, honesto. La primavera llegó con el trinar de las aves. De traer de la mano el caluroso verano.
So that's what we got today. Yeah, some interesting albums. Not as many as I usually show, but there's backstories to these, and I hope you enjoyed the samples. Again, throw out some multiple samples on some of these just to get a feel for this music, because one song does not explain the music because it's so interesting. So thanks for hanging out with me. As always, appreciate it. Have some, I don't even know what I'm doing this week, but we'll have a few more videos because it's too freaking cold to want to go outside or head toward my office, which is not the warmest place. So thanks, everyone. Bye.